Hello again, Gooners. The lengthy hello is because I'm always getting cut. And quite rightly, some of you might say. This is episode, I think, number 37 of The Loose Cannon. And this is what's coming up. This is the agenda for today. All these interesting bits of transfer speculation all coming up. Also going to read an extract for those of you that like a kind of Arsenal-style Jackanory. This great book, the official biography, the compelling story of an amazing club by well-respected journalist Steve Stammers. Really love that book, I have to say. And anyway, going to be reading something from that, which is related to the quiz question today. And the quiz question is the following. When we played in the Cup Winners' Cup final for the last time, and we lost that game due to a long-distance goal from Naeem, from the halfway line, as Spurs fans like to remind us, who was assigned the marking duties? There were two players assigned marking duties on Naeem. One of them was Martin Keown. Who was the other player assigned the duty of marking Naeem? And he went to the same school as me, which was Roan, now called John Roan, in Greenwich. So if you know the answer to that, keep it to yourself, because I'm not offering a prize just yet anyway for winning or guessing the right answer, because I'm going to give you the answer at the end of it. So the whole idea is just keep you hanging on right until the end of this vidcast, vlog, vodcast. Right, let's not waste any more time. We've seen the pre-season friendlies. I'm not going to go on about those, so I'm going to move on to this stuff. This stuff all about transfer wheeling and dealing that may or may not be going on at the club. We know the club not always the quickest off the mark when it comes to transfer deals, but we've got two in already, obviously Giroud and Podolski. Could we be bringing in Paulinho from Corinthians? The Daily Mail claim we've put in a bid, or are about to put in a bid of £9 million. Doesn't look very likely in my opinion. Daily Mail tend to come up with these kind of stories at this time of year. Not saying why they come up with it, but I think you can put two and two together and come up with the word internet traffic. So, £9 million for Paulinho. We may or may not offer it. We may be interested in Brazilian players because, of course, these Brazilian players are based at London Colney at the moment. So we're gonna have a close look at the Olympiads and see them in action, and perhaps don't be too surprised if we bring one in. Ganso, obviously the name that everyone's mentioning. I've been tipped off about Ganso. I'm a little bit sceptical about it. I don't necessarily think we will bring in another Brazilian after the Denilson debacle, you might say. Will we want in another Brazilian? Well, we've got Andre Santos, who, to me, has done a great job. He's not the fittest player of all time, but he's very skillful. I'm so glad he's joined us, and looking forward to a really good season from Andre Santos. So perhaps another Brazilian to keep him company might be in order. Paulinho, though, of Corinthians might not be the one. He's got 3 years left, apparently, on his current deal with Corinthians, and I think their president is saying he's not moving anywhere. Lewis Holtby could be a possibility from Schalke 04, Schalke, should I say, 04 of Germany. He's obviously got an English parent, hence the surname Holtby. He's an Everton fan. He could possibly join us, we're hearing. Again, I'll keep you posted on that one. I'm not too sure if that's going to happen or not. But it's the kind of signing that you'd expect Arsenal to make, even though he's currently been assigned the number 10 shirt, I believe, at Schalke. Of course, we could be needing another number 10, which leads me nicely on to Robin van Persie. Despite what you may have read, he is still in the Arsenal shop. I think it's, well, one of the blogs said that anyway, and posted some pictures which confirmed the fact that Robin van Persie's shirt is still in the Arsenal shop. But where was Robin van Persie? I didn't see his face. Anyway, not going to read too much into this, into the fact that he's not in the Arsenal shop. But what I would read a lot into is FIFA 13. It's not called FIFA 2013. I'm not a big fan of the game. Don't play it. I don't play computer games. I've given up the habit for Lent. No, actually, I just gave it up because I decided I'd wasted too much of my time playing Football Manager when instead I should be doing this kind of thing. Well, some of you might say, go back to Football Manager. But here I am. And anyway, Robin van Persie, he wasn't featured in the game. And I'll tell you who was featured a lot is Mikel Arteta. He scored a great goal in FIFA 13. So could that mean he's going to be the new Arsenal captain? If you want to bet on it, I think you can get about 10 to 1 at the bookies last time I looked. Not sure if the odds have shortened since then. I wouldn't be at all surprised at Robin van Persie not expected to be at the club. There's a very interesting story in The Independent by, I think it's Sam Wallace. He says that Robin van Persie wants to move to Juventus. The fact that Sam Wallace is prepared to put his name to the story suggests to me there may be something in this. Sam Wallace, a well-respected journalist, and if he says that's true, I'm loath to doubt it. But at the same time, I find it very hard to believe that Robin wants to go to Juventus. Turin is not the best city to live in, I don't feel. It's a nice place. I've been there. It's very near the Alps. It's quite scenic. Well, maybe. I mean, if it's not about money, yeah, then perhaps, yeah, Juventus would be a good port of call because Italy's a very hospitable place for some people, at least, and perhaps for Robin. I enjoyed my time in Italy, I've got to say. I think the locals were great. Not so much in Turin, but the other side of Italy, I think I preferred that. Bologna, that kind of area. Really nice. Maybe Robin fancies a change of scenery. But then you're hearing that his family are all settled in London, so none of it makes sense. Of course, in the newspapers in the UK, they've been running stories like Van City or Van United, meaning he's going to join Manchester City or Manchester United. According to Sam Wallace, that's not going to happen. He doesn't want to stay in England because he does feel a sense of loyalty to Arsenal fans, which leads us to believe that perhaps he will sign a new deal and stay with the club. Obviously, this saga is just the same as what happened last season. It seems the club haven't really learnt enough from what happened then, and it's really throwing our pre-season plans into chaos, and we don't need this kind of disruption. And I've been reading stories saying Robin van Persie wants this saga ended as soon as possible, and I maintain that he's right in trying to get this done and dusted as soon as physically possible. Theo Walcott, meanwhile, being linked with Liverpool and Chelsea. The transfer fee being talked about £15 million. I'd say cheap at the price, but he's only got a year to go on his current deal. Just going back to Robin van Persie for a moment, there's been talk that we might get a derisory fee of something like £9 million. Obviously, if that happens, I'm going to be pretty upset about it. I don't mind Robin leaving, but so long as the club can rake in some decent dough, it's not such a bad thing, perhaps. Theo Walcott, meanwhile, as I said, being linked with Liverpool and Chelsea. I've got this proposition to make. Why don't we make a move for Andy Carroll? He might not be a typical Arsene Wenger type of player, but if we want an aerial threat, and we look set to lose Nicholas Bentner, who went out on loan to Sunderland last season anyway, and we certainly look set to lose Marion Chamakh, who looks, I wouldn't say disinterested, he's just lost his heart. And in the pre-season friendly game, he was the least effective player on the pitch. So I think he's going to be off. So why don't we bring in Andy Carroll? We could do a deal. If Theo went to Liverpool, the team he supports, then perhaps we can do a deal to bring in Andy Carroll and get some money as well. I don't know if that will happen, but one thing I do know is Andy Carroll, every time he plays against us, he seems to be a real handful and cause us endless problems. So I'd love to see him in one of our shirts or even on the bench, because that's got to be better than playing against him. And as Alan Shearer has said, he's much better on the ground than he's given credit for. He's not the fastest, but yeah, we know what he can do in the air. And seriously, he causes problems. And he gives us a plan B, because that's one of the things we lack. So I'd have him on the subs bench at the very least. So that's my message to Arsene Wenger. But then he would reply, I already have Olivier Giroud. Why do I need Andy Carroll? So I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. Benik Afobe, his Birmingham City move could be a no-go, according to Lee Clark. Looks like that's not going to happen after all. So what else have I got for you? That's all the transfer news I'm going to deal with for now. There was stuff about Ibrahim Afellay still doing the rounds. I've already covered that in previous videos, so I'm not going to talk about that. But it's kind of Jackanory time, I think, now. We're going to sit down comfortably and hear a story of Arsenal's past. Remember the question I asked you earlier was, who was the player assigned the marking job on Naim, who lobbed Seaman from the halfway line in our Cup Winners' Cup final? Obviously, that competition is no longer with us. And, well, anyway, as I said before, give yourself a purple point. You know, purple being the colour of the new away kit. Give yourself a purple point if you can, in fact, guess the answer to the question. Martin Keown was one of the players who marked Naim. Who was the other? It will come up in my reading, so something for you to listen out for. And the reason I'm covering Stuart Houston's time at the helm is because I'm always mistaking Stuart Robson for Stuart Houston, and if I can't remember if I said it wrong in the last podcast or vlog or vlodcast or whatever it is, vidcast. If I said it wrong and said Stuart Houston when I meant Stuart Robson, please forgive me, but it's a mistake I keep making and I don't know how to get myself out of it. So I thought best way is just do a bit about Stuart Houston, who, to get back into Steve Stammer's book, was the man who stepped into George Graham's shoes when George Graham was fired. Well, Graham's assistant was asked to take over for the rest of the season, and Stuart Houston was convinced that if he retained the Cup Winners' Cup, he would have the chance to manage Arsenal on a permanent basis, but his plans were to be scuppered by a freak goal. His first European tie was against Auxerre, known as the academy team in France. They produced top players at a prolific rate, and the club was run by one of the shrewdest men in European football, Guy Roux. Don't hear much about him now. I'll have to check him up later. Houston's hopes of a winning start appeared to be dashed in his first European match as courtesy of a penalty from Ian Wright, Arsenal were held to a 1-1 draw at Highbury, but Houston was still confident we could progress, and he called upon the rehabilitated Paul Merson to help the cause. And Houston's confidence proved to be well-founded as we won 1-0 in France thanks to Ian Wright's goal. Now came the real drama in the semi-final against Sampdoria of Italy. I remember this well. I was in Hong Kong working in a club called Manhattan, and I was DJing and trying to listen to the score at the same time. And during the penalty shootout, the radio went a bit funny and I lost contact with BFBS. Anyway, enough of that. This is the account in the book. Over the years, European football has been littered with sterile, boring tussles in which the result has been more important than performance. Entertainment often way down the list of priorities, but the two clashes between Arsenal and Sampdoria would break the mould. The Sampdoria manager was Sven-Göran Eriksson, who had been in charge of the Benfica team that beat Arsenal 4 years earlier in the European Cup. So Sven obviously went on to manage England and get caricatured in spitting image style, you might say. I really missed that, actually, that Jose Mourinho show. If you ever saw it or didn't see it, make sure you check it out. It was on that Setanta Sports. So check it out. I think it's still available on YouTube, but that's just a little tip, all right? Anyway, Sven had also been in charge of the Gothenburg team that won a league title and the UEFA Cup. He'd won 3 league championships with Benfica and taken Roma to a European final. In other words, his track record was excellent. For the first leg at Highbury, Sampdoria were without 2 of their leading lights. David Platt, who of course we later found out much more about when he joined Arsenal, and Ruud Gullit. But the team still came to attack, with Eriksson mindful of the value of away goals in European competition. He also had a team packed with experience and believed he could get the result that would secure Sampdoria's place in the final, but it was Arsenal who thought they had struck first as Tony Adams diverted the ball into the net following a flick on by Steve Bold, who of course now has been promoted to assistant boss. Unfortunately, it was ruled out for a foul by Ian Wright on Walter Zenga in the Sampdoria goal, but Arsenal and Bold were not to be denied. 10 minutes from half-time, we did indeed take the lead with Bold's first goal of the season, the central defender calmly tucking away after Zenga had saved from David Hillier. Over the years, Bold's goals have been like London buses, it says. You wait ages for one, then 2 come along together. I wonder if Steve Stammers regrets that metaphor. Bit of a cliche, that. Sorry, Steve. Great book, though. In the 40th minute, he scored another with a near-post header that deceived Zenga. However, at half-time, Sampdoria regrouped. I told them to keep calm, to keep their nerve. Well, he probably said, well, I told them to keep calm, to keep their nerve. Is that a good Sven impression? Not really. That's what Eriksson said. They did, and they scored when Yugoslav striker Vladimir Jugovic drove the ball past David Seaman, but the 2-goal advantage was restored when Paul Merson threaded a superb pass through for Ian Wright's flick past Zenga. At 3-1, we looked assured of a place in the final, but Jugovic hadn't finished yet, scoring his second 15 minutes from time. We had no time to dwell on whether that would be enough. The internal turmoil at Highbury had brought inconsistency on the pitch, and going into Easter, there were 9 teams who were candidates for relegation. The Premier League was being reduced to 18 clubs, and we were in danger of being one of the 4 who would go down that season. It's funny, I don't really recall that so well, but yeah, that's what happens when you're abroad. 2 convincing wins against Ipswich, 4-1, and Aston Villa 4-0, eased those fears and made the mood for the second leg of the semi-final in Genoa more relaxed. This time, we were confronted by a much more powerful Sampdoria lineup, and Martin Keown was ordered to do a man-marking job on the talented Jugovic. But it was Roberto Mancini who was to cause us our first major problem when he lobbed the ball over Seaman to put Eriksson's men ahead. On the hour mark, we were level on the night and back in front in the time when Ian Wright prodded home the equaliser after a Merson corner was flicked on by John Hartson. 10 minutes from time, Wright, who'd been on the receiving end of some fearsome tackles, was taken off. But he had hardly got comfortable on the bench when the Italians went ahead through Claudio Bellucci. We were forced to attack and almost inevitably fell victim to a sucker punch when Attilio Lombardo, remember him? He ended up at Palace, didn't he, for a while, accelerated clear on the counter-attack to secure Sampdoria's third. The resolve that had been instilled into Arsenal by George Graham resurfaced, though, and it was one of his close season signings who came to the rescue with only 3 minutes left. Stefan Schwarz, one of my favourite Swedish players of all time, preferred him to Lundberg, I've got to say. But Schwarz had not made any significant contribution to Arsenal's season, it says. I was abroad, so I saw bits and pieces. We used to see a lot of English football in Hong Kong, actually, once a week. But he made amends anyway. He drove a 35-yard free kick goalwards. Zenga got a hand to it, but it crept into the net. Great goal, and I sort of half remember that. Or am I kidding myself? Extra time could not separate the teams, so we faced the drama of a penalty shootout. Seaman saved from Sinisa Mihailovic and Jugovic, while Dixon scored for Arsenal and Eddie McGoldrick missed. Hartson was successful for Arsenal and Aspero scored for Sampdoria. Tony Adams scored, taking it to 3-1. Sampdoria made it 3-2. If Merson scored, we would be in the final, but he missed, and this gave Seaman his moment. Lombardo looked confident enough as he shaped to take the kick. That would keep his team in with a chance, but not as confident as Seaman, who saved the effort, and Arsenal were through. Right, quickly now, it's the European Cup final, which we weren't triumphant in, which is why it's going to be reasonably quick, and I'm not going to finish off the end. But I'll give you the answer to my quiz question, which was who was the other player besides Martin Keown who was given the duty to Mark Naeem. There had been talk of the semi-finals ahead of the semi-finals of an all-London final. Chelsea, who qualified as losing FA Cup finalists as Manchester United had done the double, were playing the modest Spanish team of Real Zaragoza, but Zaragoza proved a more formidable unit than Chelsea had anticipated, winning 4-3 on aggregate. If Chelsea had qualified, the final would have been at Wembley. Instead, it was staged in Paris, with Arsenal hot favourites. But in the Zaragoza ranks was one player who would need no motivation, Naeem. The Moroccan-born midfielder had been at Tottenham after Terry Venables signed him from Barcelona. While not a failure, he had struggled to establish a regular place in the starting lineup and moved back to Spain. Ahead of the final, he was aware that we were fancied to win, but he also had a warning for us. Not many people gave us a chance against Chelsea, but we won that match. I think we will be able to do the same against Arsenal, he said. We may not have many players who are world famous or anything like that, but we are a close team. We have a fantastic spirit that has got us to the final, and now we intend to win it, he said. Naeem was especially glowing in his assessment of Zaragoza's Juan Esnaida. He is quick, he is fast, he has a good goal-scoring record. Arsenal need to be ready for him. They were, in fact, wise words. The Zaragoza fans were outnumbered among the 48,000 fans who crowded into Le Parc des Princes, and that suited the Spaniards because there was more pressure on us. The game was goalless after 90 minutes, and then Naeem's forecast became a reality as Sneijder put Zaragoza ahead. In doing so, he became the first player to score in every round of a European competition, but John Hartson bundled home an equaliser, and the penalty kick scenario was set for a repeat at this stage. Then came an extraordinary moment for Naeem and for David Seaman in the Arsenal goal. Naim had been singled out as the playmaker, the man that made Zaragoza tick, and Houston had deployed first Martin Keown and then, wait for it, here comes the answer, David Hillier to stifle him. However, as fatigue set in, spaces appeared. It looked like we were set for penalties, and of course there was one last shot in the game. And that's enough for this time. I'm not gonna go on about what happened in the final. We know about that goal. So sorry to leave you on a down note, a low note, if you might say, a bass note, or one of those notes instead of a ah, which would have been a much better note to leave you on. So well, I kind of did it just then, so you should be satisfied with that. I hope this vlog, this video cast, this vidcast, this vodcast was to your liking, and if it was, please leave a comment below. And if you'd like to see any particular features in future vlogs, please let me know by adding your comment in that section, which I'll show you the eyes. It's down there. I can't roll my eyes. If you roll your eyes, some people do that. I'm not one of them, honest. Right, till the next time, up the Gooners.